Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Wardrobe and McMurray here.
Uh,
Um, yeah. Hey, what's up, McMurray? So I just want to get on here fast, and we may be fast because McMurray might get called out, but I don't mean called out like, "Hey, McMurray, you're a jerk." He gets called out like that all the time. I'm
yeah,
talking about.
we don't have to stop broadcast for that.
Okay, so McMurray's no, I guess I'm calling you out. Well, that's a rude way to start. You're right. And he's a guest on my show. Let's start over. Take two. Hey, everybody. No one's right. Oh, we got one person watching. It's probably you. Hi, everybody. Wardrobe and McMurray here. So I've recently played a Bigger Battles, which I posted a video up today. Oh, no, late last night. And then McMurray was over here, and he's play testing a scenario for a convention coming up, March to Victory, at the end of March in Kansas City, around Victorian airships. And so he's just trying to kind of figure out, what traits and special rules and all that stuff he wants to use to make it an exciting game. Not that Victorian airships in and of themselves is not exciting, but you always have to have a little flavor flav. You should wear a huge airship around your neck. Okay, anyway.
Yeah, a super ornate clock with lots of gears.
Oh yeah. Steampunk. Hey, what's up, Tony's Board? Oh, Tony's Board Life. What's up, man? So anyway, thanks for catching that video, Tony. So anyway, there were 3 rules. So when McMurray came back the next day, he was on the line with me when I was playing that other game, and we went back and forth on stuff. And then when he was here playing, we'd kind of had a chance to kind of refresh on the rules, and we're like, oh, we got some stuff wrong.
I got some wrong. I apologize.
No, we all do. What's up, Chucky?
What's up, Chuck?
I don't know if this will help you, Chuck, because this is Bigger Battles, and I should say Bigger Battles. And of course, I don't have the rule book right here in front of me. Has slightly different terminology and things than the Fistful of Lead. Because Fistful of Lead, just so everyone remembers, Wiley Games is a skirmish game. You have 5 to 10 people against 5 to 10 people. Heroes, that kind of stuff. It's very cinematic type of thing, and just a quick skirmish battle. Fantasy, ancient to sci-fi, or cartoonish, or whatever you want to do. Well, of course, I'm historical, so I got to do everything historical. And Bigger Battles allows you to play, stands, or now instead of 5 to 10 guys, you have 5 to 10 units. Yeah, they're basically just guys, or people or individuals. But anyway, there's some different things in there that Jay Wiley put on there to just make a little bit more sense than a skirmish game. So I don't know if this will help you in your games you're playing there. So go check out Charles. He's playing some Fistful of Lead, trying to learn the rules, and
Chuck's getting after it.
Doing the same things that McMurray and I were doing, making mistakes. But that's cool. It's good.
That's how you learn.
So I want to talk about. There's really 3 rules that we kind of messed up. I'll just say it, and that's cool. We recognize them. So I thought, well, I'll just talk about them real quick. Well, I didn't want it to do that, but that's cool. This is some high technology production. So the first one, rule 1. Let me type that. Shock.
Rule the first.
So now, how does shock work in regular Fistful of Lead?
Regular Fistful of Lead, a point of shock is a -1 on basically every roll you have.
All right. So then what did we learn about shock in Bigger Battles?
Specifically, while shooting, 1 point of shock removes 1 die from your attack. So, and this is good. This is where I was concerned that, if you built a squad of guys based on, World War II ideas, so you had 10, 11 guys in your squad, I was semi-concerned that, man, I'm going to take 3, 4 shock, and then all these 10, 11 guys are going to be unable to do anything, because then everybody's going to be hitting on a -3 or 4, which is,
right,
impossible when you're shooting at long range, unless you got traits and stuff.
Right.
But I'm a doofus, go figure. And as it turns out, it's just -1 die. So instead of shooting with, 7, or if you have some sort of support weapon, 8 or 9 dice when you're a little short on figure, you just drop a die instead of, making basically everything you do ineffective. So that's cool. That's a cool mechanic.
Now, So yeah, I mean, you can look at it and say, yeah, having -4 dice on a stand, if you've only got 4 stands, yep, that's pretty bad because you may be taking all your shots away, but there is also the recovery roll that you can do. And so real quick before we get into that, shock does affect movement as normal. It's -1 inch per shock on there. So that affects you. So if you have 4 shock, like we were talking about, you can only move 1 inch.
Mhm.
So, well, 2 inches, I guess, if you moved at the double. But you still have the rally. So basically in this, now I don't remember I don't know how this works in Fistful of Lead, but if I had a German stand yesterday with 5 shock on it. So I can do I don't know if it's rally or recover, but I can do a rally. It's rally. And I can roll 5d10, and I have to hit a 5 or better, unless there's some sort of modifier with a leader or a trait, 5 or more, and that recovers. If you so I rolled 5 dice and I got 5 recoveries. That meant I got to swipe all the shock, and then they could act. Normally, what happens is, especially if you have 5, you might hit 2 or 3 of them, and then you take those 2 or 3 off, and then you're done.
Yeah.
Another thing that can happen, which happened to me twice. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying it's not a bad thing, but it is.
No, you're getting rid of shock, which is good. It
Yeah.
just takes your whole turn.
Which is how it works in traditional.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, a recover roll is the only thing you do pretty much for the turn.
Okay. Now, if you roll a 1, if any of those dice rolls up 1s, I think that's right. If any of the die roll up 1, you get an extra shock. Now, but I'm suddenly doubting that.
That's what you told me, so that's how I played it yesterday. That made my gun crew run away.
That's how I played it.
I it's Todd's fault, guys.
Hey, what's up, Not Jay?
Hey, what's up, Chris? Not Jay.
Hey, Chuck ordered Bigger Battles and Fantasy 3 volume set. Nice.
Awesome. Nice. That Fantasy 3 volume set, I think you're really going to like, Chuck, especially because you got some fantasy miniatures over there. It's a beautiful book. And it's got some cool stuff in it. You can fight all kinds of wild stuff.
Okay, I did make a mistake then, so that's good. That's why you think, if we were good, we'd have all this stuff figured out before we go live, but that's not how we run this channel. So
yeah, that's for sure.
Okay, you ready? If more 1s are rolled than successes, the unit must fall back 1 move and gains another shock marker. So
balls.
So you had that guy, so it was funny. McMurray had 1 guy on a gun, and he said, "I'm going to roll to recover this shock." So he rolled and got a 1. So that's more.
Oh yeah, okay. So
1, and that guy, we were on airships, so he fell back, which means you move double distance away. Well, in an airship, that meant he jumped off the edge.
Yeah, we were either counting them as jumped off the edge or having run below decks or something like that. But yeah, that put them out of the engagement.
Where I made a mistake though is I rolled 3 dice to get rid of some, and I rolled a 1 and 2 successes maybe or something. So then I added another one. I shouldn't have done that. That just would have been nothing. Yeah. So that was where I messed up there. So anyway, that's how shock works in Bigger Battles. You can tell we are super prepared. Like I said, I want to kind of plug through this. Let's see here if any comments here. Yeah, we got some. Hey, crossing obstacles.
Hey,
thanks for the shout out.
Yeah, what a guy.
Crossing shout out. Not Jay, myself, Charles. Oh shoot, who am I for? And Mini Warmut. So thanks a lot for that, man.
Can you hear me, Todd?
Yep, I got you. You're on. You're good. Can you hear me?
Bitch, what the? Why is this thing so shitty?
He can't hear me, so
I don't know if you can hear me. I got to jump back.
All right. So anyway, so let's talk about the second thing, so we can keep plugging through here, and I'll look for him to jump back on. Sometimes that happens. I need to make this bigger. That's what I said. Oh shoot. Okay, well, never mind. All right, so 2. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. I don't use Keynote often. I use fantastic. All right, so we're going to all right, well, 2 is actions. So McMurray's back on. Let's get him back on. I love this. This is perfect. This is how we run our channel. I got you there.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, not Jay. How do I get this title slide bigger? How do I make this so I can see the number 2 point here? There's a little arrow there. Anyway, hilarious. All right, so the number 2 mistake we made was actions. So how does Fistful of Lead work with actions?
Fistful of Lead, you get 2 actions per turn per activation.
Right. And how does it work in Bigger Battles?
you can take an action from the list.
Right. So,
Oops. Mea culpa. I may have led you astray on that one because you were playing and I was like, just shoot again.
well, but I don't think I knew the difference. So, yes, Peter, everything's good.
Hello,
Gamer
Peter.
Hudson. I think I made a list like this from any game I play would be 5 pages. Yeah, no doubt, Gamer. Grab one of the corner handles and pull it down. There's no corner handle. Just got the plus sign. All right, I'm not going to worry about it. We got a boogie. Thanks, though, Chris. Anyway, so in here you get one action. So a unit can do one thing. Now, like I said, unless you're like doing a rally, but that's a little different. So that's an exception to the rule. Commander can do one thing. A tank can do one thing. So, well, now that's one action. One of the actions is called maneuver, and that allows you to move your regular speed, which is 5 inches per foot, and then whatever the speed is of the tank, be it 4 inches, 8 inches, 10, 12, whatever.
Movement in bigger battles is 5 for infantry, 6 for regular infantry, 8 for cavalry, 10 for irregular cavalry.
Oh, that's interesting for regular foot. Wait, say that again.
Regular foot is 5 inches.
5
Irregular
inches, okay.
foot is 6 inches. Regular cavalry is 8 inches. Irregular cavalry would be 10 inches.
Okay, gotcha.
Anyways, there you go. We don't have to worry about that in World War II.
Oh, there we go, baby. So one action, not two. Now,
yeah, and bearing in mind that most of those single actions are kind of abstracted versions of what you would do with 2 actions in regular fistful lead. Like maneuver is essentially a move and then a shoot action. Move at the top,
okay.
2 moves, but it's still very different because you can't do things like shoot twice.
Correct. Yeah, which is what I was doing. And I blame myself.
You should absolutely blame me because you were shooting. You said, dang, I missed. And I was like, whatever, shoot again.
Whatever, loser. All right, last one. Oh, and I really should have read up a little bit more on this one. Support weapons.
Oh, Jesus. This always trips me up.
All right, so you might, typical squad in most formations in World War II had guys with some rifles, maybe some machine gun, like handheld submachine guns or something, but say rifles. And they often had a light machine gun, a 34 or a bar or, what have you, Bren gun. Well, they abstract that out, which is what Bigger Battles does, because it's not it is not a World War II set of rules. You have to remember that. It is an abstraction. He has a support weapon. So what that means is you can give one of your figures a support weapon, and it gets 2 or 3 shots. Same range as a rifle. I know you can argue like, well, it's a machine gun. Like, but it's just concentrating the fire where they're all firing too. And what I did, my mistake I made is thinking like World War II, right? I was like, oh, I've got a guy with a support weapon. I better put one of my riflemen with him. Well, he doesn't say that.
Yeah, we screwed that up.
Just a guy gets a support weapon. Basically, it's just a simulate or abstract out that machine gun that's in the unit, which is cool. And then it's just one of the guys, and he's got a 2 or 3. It's like a special trait.
You don't need a loader.
Yeah, you don't need a loader. So
screwed me up too. Again,
so
I think
what's that?
I think it's in Galactic Heroes where there's a trait that allows a guy to use a support weapon without a helper. I don't remember what it is or how. Again, I haven't played too much Galactic Heroes, but who knows?
Okay, now, so that's, I am sure we got other things wrong, but those are the 3 that really stood out to me that I'm like, okay, I really want to remember that because those do definitely affect how you're playing. So when McMurray was here, we played all these correctly. We didn't have support weapons in our case in the particular game we played, but we did do the actions and the shock correctly. Good job on us. But then I played an all armor game, which I'll do a video of and show in a couple of days, where I did all this correctly, I believe. And the cool thing is it doesn't really change much for armor versus an infantry unit, really. There are a few less things that a tank unit or an armor unit can do, but it is not anything that's really illogical. And you're like, what? It's all good. So they can move and fire. They can sit and fire. So if they don't move, and this is true for infantry as well, if they don't move and they only fire, that's kind of a rule I forgot, honestly. I'm going to add that. Aimed fire, but it's not called aimed fire. It's called concentration fire.
Concentrated fire, yeah. Well, at least, again, we found aimed on the thing, which to carry over from traditional. But yeah.
So basically -1 to your shot because you're trying to hit, no.
+1.
+1. Thinking of ASL there. It's +1 to your shooting if all you're doing is shooting, which is kind of a cool thing. You're kind of just narrowing in there. So that's cool. So if you're playing bigger battles, especially, check this out. And then you can also see if any of these apply to the regular fistful of lead. So real quick, before we need to head out, I want to cover real quick proposed traits and rules. We're miniature war gamers, and we can't stand to have rules the way they are. But to say that, Jay talks about all the time that his games, he created Fistful of Lead. I don't have that book in front of me. In fact, I don't even have that book. I just have it on PDF, just as a reference. He has all these traits of whatever hero and all that. He goes, make up your own traits. Whatever fits the battle. If you're playing, Sergeant Rock, I don't know, make up a trait that fits the Sergeant Rock story or whatever. But, we being who we are, we're always like, oh, can you make one that does this? So, people are always begging him to make more traits. He always jokes about that. But remember, you can make your own. So here's some proposed things that, I'm thinking about.
The other thing to keep in mind as we're doing this, that we were just talking about, is that there are different traits in every book. Yes. It might be, odds are one of these traits that we're talking about is already in another book somewhere. And we're just too dumb. We haven't seen it, or we don't remember it, or whatever.
Well, he's got a lot of books. It's harder to keep track of all of them.
Yeah, I keep talking about making a master trait list.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't want anybody calling me a master trader, so yeah.
Again, don't call him out. Okay, so for example, let me just do the first one here. So one of the things I thought about is like, man, it'd be nice if this. So basically, what I had several squads of men, and then I had one commander. Usually, what you do, you put a leader in charge of each of those. A leader in charge of a unit. So like each squad would have a sergeant or whatever that is, leading them. Is that right?
Yeah.
The lieutenant leads a platoon. Okay. So anyway, and that sergeant would have a special trait of rallying or whatever. Doesn't matter. And that conveys to the whole squad. And then if that leader dies, then they lose that trait. Okay, that's cool. I didn't do that in my game because I was just trying to make it simple and just get a game. I wanted to remind myself of the rules. Well, then there's always a commander. And that's so like in this case, a lieutenant, you could even say a lieutenant and a sergeant or whatever. And they have a trait. They have up to 3 traits. But one of the things, there's a couple of things I thought would be interesting is one, it'd be nice if they could use an action to rally some squad. So like that guy that had 5, it'd be nice if my leader could have gone up there and thrown him a bone and try to rally some of those off there. Rolling dice automatically, whatever. Right as it stands right now, usually the leader just conveys a +1 to that roll. Which is good. That's a good thing because now you need a 4+, which on a 10-sided dice, pretty good odds. So I thought it'd be nice to make a trait. So I don't know what you'd call it, but I was looking in this horse and musket, and they have bugler drummer, which is not a leader. Yeah. The inspiring sound of your tune allows members of your force to immediately make a recovery roll. You must use both actions to use this trait. Again, remember, this is Fistful of Lead, so that's both actions. In this case, you just use one action. Allows all members of your force to make a recovery roll. So, okay, and I actually misread that last night. Remember, I thought it was all automatic. Everyone would make a roll. So that's pretty cool. I would make mine probably just rally a squad that you're nearest or something, but
I mean, that bugler trumpeter thing seems like a pretty solid reason to all of a sudden say, oh shit, okay, I do feel like it's worth it to have a completely unarmed model in my, because if you got 5 guys on the table, having one of them completely combat worthless, better have something good.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's a good point. If you're a Commonwealth, you put yourself a bagpiper. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, you get Billy Millen running around out there.
So that was one. Another one I thought about was, for Pete's sake.
What's up, buddy?
Oh, just me and not using this program enough. Another one I thought of was giving a leader 2 actions. So like
leader. Oh, a second. Okay.
So the second action, so they could move and then do that rally or something.
So kind of like in oh geez, what do you call it? Mother, am I dripping again? Damn it. In Galactic Heroes, how the Galactic Hero can take an extra action.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like you activate a good Galactic Hero, I think on a red, or a bad Galactic Hero on a black card, they get a 3rd action. It's like an actual Galactic Hero, like a Sith or a Jedi.
Okay. Gotcha. Chris is saying that this trait is strong. That I think that's from earlier though.
Oh, okay. For running around with a weapon without whatchamacallit. Yes, it's strong. Without taking the penalties.
Another one I thought might be interesting, a leader could maybe convey certain traits, not all of them, but certain traits to a unit they're attached to or joined.
Makes sense.
Perhaps, because he can get them to really focus their fire, or they're bloodthirsty or whatever. But if he's attached to them, whatever that means, within an inch or whatever, that way it just kind of shows kind of a leader just like, let's go, like kind of like when this is probably like rallying, so maybe it's different, but like when Winters was in the middle of the road and they're getting peppered with 42 whatever bullets, and he's like yelling at the guys in the ditch. Maybe he gets one of those squads and kind of gets him going in there. So I don't know. That's an example of that.
Like direct fire or something like that.
Direct fire also. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Again, you don't want to have too many, but it's just stuff you think about while you're doing this. So another one. These are going to be out of weird order here. 1 MT, 1-man turrets. So these are early French tanks. They had one guy, and you'll see them. There's pictures of them hanging out the back, riding it with their flags waving. And as McMurray said, they got their hand on the gun, on the, whatever. They got it on everything because they got to do everything in the tank except for drive it.
Gunner, loader, commander, and radio man. Except for you didn't have a radio. You were hanging out the back of this tank with a semaphore flag. So yes, an overall very, very confusing place to be.
So, hey, not Jay, if you can grab your bigger battles, can you find a page that's on? I'd love to see it. I kind of thought it was a rule, but I couldn't find it in my fury of playing. He says that the leader can convey their traits.
Oh, okay.
So
we're real dumb.
Not the unit leader, the overall commander. So anyway, 1-man turret. So here's something I got from another game that shall go unnamed.
There's I think there's an entire page with diagrams on it about leaders joining units. Yeah.
Cool. That's great.
Yes.
I can't read. So 1-man turret. Here's how I thought you could portray that. So remember I told you can maneuver and shoot. So I thought, well, you tell R35 you're going to maneuver. So they move their 4 whole inches. Wow. Which is what I gave them. That was just so they move their 4 inches because they're slow. And then you have to roll a task roll to do the firing. So it's not guaranteed. Now, a lot of task rolls are at 8. I feel like that's harsh. So I made it a 6 last night, and it seemed to work. Because I didn't always pass. And sometimes I passed, sometimes I didn't. So I felt like it was enough that it wasn't too much, like you never got to fire. But then, I don't know. So you could do that. Like some tanks were super unreliable. So you could maybe even get a task roll. I just thought of this to get going, right? Like to get moving or something.
Just make that like a national trait for the Germans.
Yeah, right. Or like if you're fighting, when we're, the tigers and panthers were introduced on the East Front and they were super unreliable. They got better,
Yeah.
I think, right? But they were
Yes, but not. I mean, not much. But yeah,
not much.
yeah.
But
If you're like Citadel and you had Panthers, yeah, it would absolutely make sense that you had to make a fucking task roll every turn just to activate.
But you could even say it like in Advanced Squad Leader, they do have anytime you start moving a tank on certain ones, and they have a little indication for it, you have to roll a successful start. Or is it that, or it costs you extra to do it? Whatever it is. But you could do it at the very beginning. Like you wouldn't have to do it maybe every turn, but like your first time you ever move a tank, you roll it. And
Yeah.
And once you succeed, then you can go. That's just so you don't penalize somebody the whole game, but it's just kind of a fun. And you could do it by, and that's the cool thing. You could do it by scenario. Like if you're doing a cursed one, you're like, these Panthers were new and they failed a lot. Okay, well then make that or they ran out of fuel, like in the bulge. So make it a roll when they move one time and they ran out of fuel and then find it or something. Again, abstracting it out. So page 26, Samwa's own. Oh, here's Jeff on Hex to Hex. He and his Samwa love, or whatever.
What is up with that guy?
I don't know what that guy is up to. Okay. An unattached commander gives blah, blah, blah. While attached commander will move, the unit moves, they use the ability. But most importantly, they give the units. Oh, for Pete's sake. It's already there.
What?
He's right. Page 26. They convey their traits.
Well, there you go. We were thinking right along the same lines as the game designer. I think that qualifies us as at least like a quarter of the way to intelligent.
I would say genius. I'm just going to go with it.
I wasn't going to go that far, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so this one, this one I could get a little. Jeff is right. I can think too much on this, and I think I was driving McMurray crazy. But so you have to abstract things, right? And so,
are you talking about armor?
Yeah, I should have told you. So I'm talking about armor here. So basically, there's 3 levels. There's light, medium, and heavy gun. There's basically, it's not really called this, light, medium, heavy armor, and super. I guess there is super heavy armor, which is a trait, which is interesting. So you can kind of introduce a 4th level. Because again, you have to abstract things out. Well, I was kind of like, well, a 2-2-2.
There's only really 2 levels, I think. The 10 was my creation, if I recall.
Yeah, but I was okay with it. I mean, I'm like, I don't know. It's going to be hard to save a 2-2-2 from any hit from a tank. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I just mean in standard bigger battles, I think there's either an 8 or a 6 on armor.
Oh, okay. Okay.
What I did was, again, so that you could differentiate something that had a little bit of armor, like some armor protection, like a 226 or a half track, from like a truck, was when I wrote up that list of tanks for stuff like Stewarts and whatnot. Yeah, I added a 10 just so that it would have something, you know what I mean? So that you couldn't knock it out with a machine gun. You had to have something to knock it out. But if you had basically anything, you were probably going to knock it out.
Yeah. So, and I think maybe another level of AP, because right now there's 1, 2, 3. Ones are like machine guns. So AP means basically that's armor piercing capability, which means that so if I hit you and you have a save roll of 8+, well, if I have a 1, it's now a 9+.
Yes.
Right. But that said, an AP1, so a machine gun can basically only shock a tank, which makes sense. So they can do the damage is shock and that happened. They would get peppered with machine gun. They're like, holy crap. And they'd kind of shut down for a second or get, more cautious. Well, I made all the tanks.
You get a button up.
Yeah. I made all the tanks before I knew that AP1 because they're going to be AP1 because, man, these things are weak compared to a Sherman, which is a 2, because then you only make, 88s, 3s. I don't know what you make 3s, but, because that's the top of the line. So I'm like.
So you make bigger stuff 3s, and then once you get stuff like an 88 or like a Pack 40 or something ridiculous, you can always give it deadly, which basically means it just kills something on a 10. That's how I was doing it.
Okay.
Like I think I gave the King Tiger's cannon and like the Panther's gun deadly.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a great point. Like I said, there is a super heavy armor trait, which is an add 2 or something. And so you would only that's interesting. So there might already, again, as usual, there's already something maybe there to cover it. And that some of this is my lack of understanding of the game. And the more I play, the better I'll figure that out. And kind of get a little bit more detail, but again, not too much. Because what I don't like is I don't like to have too many traits on my stuff, because then it gets confusing for everybody, especially when you're playing.
No, it gets confusing for me when I put too many traits on stuff.
So okay, not Jay might be able to help us with this one. So one of the things I was trying to figure out, I was like, well, the Germans had radios, the French didn't. Part of the French concern was, their tanks were good compared to the German tanks at the time. And so even their troops were well trained. I mean, they weren't like green, nothing troops. They were well trained, but then there was the leadership and just kind of they didn't want to fight this. They're like, I don't really want to do this again on my land. We already did this 20 years ago, which is all great. How do you kind of simulate that? Well, one thing I did on my British or French troops is I made them brittle. So it was +1 to wound. So it was a little easier, same to hit them, but easier to wound them or shock them.
That makes sense. That's a really good way to do that, because I was struggling with that same thing. How do you impart that kind of strategic difficulty on a super tactical level game?
Right. And so I didn't want to add that to the tanks, though. I was like, I don't want to make the tanks brittle because, again, their armor was better. So,
that's the thing, though. Like, French tanks had suffered from Panther paradox really, really badly. Like, all their hard numbers were outstanding, but the soft factors were just beyond garbage. Perfect example of that being the one-man turret. Like,
right.
The armor was stellar. The guns were pretty darn good. The speed wasn't too bad, but they were not super duper easy to manufacture. They were pretty expensive to manufacture. They were not by any means, a user-friendly tank.
Right.
The best example of that being one-man turret. So again, that's one of those. On paper, you're absolutely right. They're great-looking tanks on paper, but then you have to try and fight in one of the stupid things, and it all of a sudden becomes super obvious why, as soon as you get the Germans being remotely mobile around French armor, the French armor just shits the bed and can't stack up. And I'm sure the comments section is going to light up with, Sergeant or Lieutenant Leclerc or whatever the hell his name is, the dude in the char that blew up like 4 Panzer IIs. Cool, man. That's fine. You can always find exceptions to the rule.
Yep.
You can't argue, however, with an entire country with overwhelming armor superiority in numbers and in those hard factors fighting on their own home turf and still falling in like 6 weeks. You can't fight that. Sorry, buddy. Come at me on that one, bro.
Oh boy, he nailed it there. It's done. Case closed. Hey, so that's the cool thing about Wiley games, or a lot of games, not just Wiley games. You can do a chain of command, bolt action. You just make a hero, right? So make a Leclerc or whatever his name is, and make him pretty awesome, and and then he can maybe do something like that, which would be fun, right? It'd be like cool if you had this one little tank just blasting away at all these bigger tanks. I don't know. Anyway, so one of the things we thought of was how do you simulate the radios or kind of the overall better tactician? So McMurray said, there's something like tactician or something where you can draw an extra card. So again, remember, if maybe people don't know, Wiley games, if I have 5 units and McMurray has 5 units, we each draw 5 cards from a standard deck of cards. And that's how you determine turn order, like, kings, queens, blah, blah, blah. Well, if I'm the Germans and I get tactician, I draw 6 cards and I keep the best one and get, discard one of my worst cards. So that's a way, but we could not find tactician. I bet not Jay, if he's still on, we'll be like, hey, dudes, it's on page 12.
Well, that's my point. I don't legitimately know if I found that in a book or if I just made that shit up for John or for Godville Bromhead in the Rorschach stuff that I'm putting together. I don't actually know. Or John Chard, not Bromhead. But yeah, I don't know about that. I all of a sudden feel like a dick because it might not be in anything. And it's a figment of my imagination. It's something that I like, but it might be a figment of my imagination.
Yeah, and I don't feel like that's like even game breaking because you're as likely to pull another 3 of whatever as you would a queen of spades or something. So
yeah, and it's meant to be good. It's meant to be a leader thing. Like there's leader traits that do astounding things.
Yeah. So I thought I really like that one to kind of portray better, maybe control of the battlefield. So we're kind of getting down to the line here. So one of the things that we tried is McMurray and I talked about. So I played 15. How about if you change the ranges? So basically, everything's got 2 ranges in Fistful of Lead, not unusual from a lot of games. So like infantry are 12 to 24. So if they're within 12 inches, it's 5 plus to hit, plus or minus modifiers. And up to 24, it's 8 to hit. So it's significantly harder. And if you're shooting at somebody in a building, it's now a 10. And if you moved, it's now an 11. We can talk about that in just a minute. So this would be more kind of that's just not really a trait because everyone would have it. But it's just kind of an overall like scenario change or something. But what we said is, so infantry can shoot out to 24, and that would be their 5 plus roll. And if they shoot anything beyond 20, 25 and up, the whole table would be 8 plus. Because if you look at the scale, it kind of works. Now, so I did that with the tank battle to see what that would do, and tried to put. You can't really see it, but it's behind me. I just threw terrain around. I didn't try, think out a scenario. I just put 4 tanks on houses and trees. Now the problem. It was fun because I had a little R35 just harassing a Panzer III, and for most of the game, way out there, putting out 2 damage on him, which was cool. And because if he was sitting there, it now no longer became an 8; it was a 7, right? Which is not bad on a D10, 7 plus. So you definitely would want a lot of terrain, and what you would have on a normal table in Europe, for sure, like even the jungles and. Definitely in the jungles, you don't have much at all long range anyway. So I think that would help that. It was fun to do that because it's fun. You could picture tanks firing. It didn't look unrealistic. It looked like a nice range, especially in 15 mil. If you were playing like modern 6 mil or something, it might even make sense there too.
Yeah, like I said, that's how I've played when we play moderns in 28. Especially when we're playing like with professional type stuff. When we do the lovingly named fistful of fentanyl, we don't usually do that. But
right.
But when we've got professional, troops or whatever however you want to define that, however you want to, call it, it works pretty well. We've had good success with, the idea that, you can kind of really reach out, touch somebody with basically anything on the modern battlefield, especially with the advent of really effective long arms, which include stuff through World War I or World War I and II for that matter. But yeah, who here has shot or seen people shoot M1 Garands out to like 600 yards offhand without any issue. And leg out. Yeah, that's the thing. Not saying it's necessarily the most accurate battlefield portrayal of the firearm, but it's certainly something that was out there.
So back to Tactician real quick. Not Jay says Galactic Heroes has a crew trait called Advanced Comms. Draw 1 more card than number of models. Discard 1 card at choice before turn starts. So
there you go.
That's it. I mean, that's what we were talking about. Is advanced? They had McMurray. They had advanced communications, i.e., they had radios.
Yes. Yeah. Shut up. Yeah, you're right.
So, like if you want to do a market garden scenario, the Paras dropping down in around Oosterbeek or Arnhem
would not have that trait.
Would they not have that trait? Yeah. How would you do that? That'd be interesting.
I mean, again, I feel like that's really, really reaching for a strategic issue. Like the best way to do that would probably just be you've got 4 guys on the table because the other guys are still sitting in Oosterbeek in the perimeter.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that'd be cool. Yeah, you could even make them like super variable reinforcements or something.
Yeah, I mean, again, so to a certain extent, you can look at stuff, and when you're going, that would be cool. I always catch myself doing this. Like, again, so I ran into this a whole lot with trying to write Orcs Drift type stuff, right? You've got the Zulus, who by all means were beyond strategically mobile, right? Which was a huge issue for Chelmsford because all of a sudden Zulus had gotten from Ilundi to the KwaZulu-Natal border in like a day and a half, 2 days. But that's not necessarily to say that if you put, a Zulu and a British regular right next to each other and said, all right, run a foot race, that Zulu was going to run 100 yards like 2 or 3 times as fast as the British regular, right?
Yeah.
So that was, again, it's just it gets tricky sometimes abstracting those getting those strategic or operational influences down into a game that's this zoomed in, even when we're playing bigger battles.
Yeah, right. By the way, I just want to just say that tactician thing, why you couldn't remember the name of it. Again, I think it's either you remember it from Galactic Heroes and didn't remember that, or you just thought of it. So again, another genius level thing, thinking like the designer. So I just want to put, that's 2 marks. 2 genius.
I don't actually think I have a copy of Galactic Heroes here.
See, exactly. So
I'm out of protest.
That's what it was.
Well, I don't. Okay. Yeah, I'm a genius. Yeah, Todd said it, not me.
Yeah. Okay. Just a couple more here, and these are just kind of thinking crazy here. So I was thinking on that long range. If it was too much for somebody, maybe you say that they can only shock at that far range. Maybe.
Yeah.
If it's like, oh, boy, that's too much. Like shooting that, doing what I was doing, which again to me kind of makes sense, right? And maybe the effectiveness of the shells are less. Although some guns I think they get better at some ranges, but is only shock at long range, perhaps. Maybe that'd be better for the the troops firing or something. And you could even say that for like undisciplined troops. And then again, this is probably already a trait, but I don't know. So only shock at long range, perhaps. Okay.
Thoroughly agree.
Right.
Thoroughly agree.
So this is embarrassing that Chris has to watch me goop around with Keynote. Okay.
Whatever, dude. Who cares? Chris doesn't.
I care what he thinks of me, man. Okay. So I thought about flank shots, right? Because that's a pretty big deal in almost any armor engagement, right? You want to get around to the backside. So to speak. Well, I don't know. I was just trying to think like, well, what could you do here? I guess basically to me, what you would do to make it super simple is that their armor save could go down, from if it's an 8+, it goes up to a 9 or a 10. I don't know. Or the armor piercing goes up a level from 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 or one of those things. So this gives them some, because as I was messing around with my table, I thought, well, there's no, the incentive would be to want to get to the back. It's like, well, it doesn't really matter in this case because there's no. Yeah.
I mean, that's another one of those things you could always just add as a, whatever for on a player aid or whatnot is, AP goes up 1 if you get onto the side and up 2 if you get around to the back. Right.
Right. And that could cover everything, or you could just make like certain tanks. Maybe certain tanks were really well known for just being like, you do not want to get hit in the back because.
I was going to say, like the perfect example of that would be a Panther, right? The front armor was obnoxiously thick, outstanding. The side armor, you don't want a Sherman around your side if you're in a Panther. Not that you really want a tank on your side in anything, but oof, you're gonna be in a tough spot. Right. I mean, I don't know, man.
We're going back here.
So I've definitely played a game of Fistful of Lead where we were playing What a Tanker a lot, right? Because What a Tanker is a fantastic game.
By Two Fat Lardies, by the way.
Yes, it is. And we played a game that was pretty fun where we each had a tank, right? Like I think there were 2 Shermans and 2 Panzer IVs on the table. And we were activating the individual members of the crew. Right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So you'd activate on a card, you'd activate your driver. Or you'd activate your gunner. Or you'd activate your loader. Or you'd activate the commander. Granted, the commander kind of just was essentially a wild card. Like you could have him shoot again or move again. You know what I mean? Just kind of doing that.
That's cool.
That extra. Yeah, because otherwise, what the hell is the commander going to do? Just like the loader, if you activated your loader before your gunner, It just gave you a +1 to hit. The idea was your loader was on top of it, and your gunner wasn't waiting for that round to get in there. You were pretty coordinated, so it was a little easier for that gunner to get the rounds off when he needed to. But anyways, that just made me think of this, with how we're talking, and it was a fun game. It was a little different. Again, it was a one-off, like, hey, what if we tried this? But it did work, and it was a cool little concept for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would ever really necessarily, oh man, I got to play that again, but certainly something I wouldn't shy away from playing again.
So Crossing and not Jay are talking about the advanced comm thing. So Crossing, what I'm thinking about in this case, Galactic Heroes aside, in this case, it would be the whole army. So the German army in this particular scenario, not always, in this particular case, they had better tacticians on their side. Rommel and those guys, they just had a better plan going into the whole thing.
Well, it was the doctrine at the time.
Right. But what I'm getting at is, so it's going to impact the whole army. So that in this scenario, they would get that +1, and you could call it advanced comms or advanced strategy or tactician or whatever. And again,
fire up the radios.
You could, fire up the radios. Or you could just say, that particular leader, if you want to forget radios, your overall commander is just better at running the battle. So he's a tactician. So, oh, great. This person's showing up here too.
Who's that?
There's a bot out there spamming all the live streams today with VUR Life. So if someone wants to block that would be, or report it as spam, that'd be great.
VUR Life?
It doesn't matter.
I thought you were talking about Jeff for a minute there.
Oh, come on now.
No, I figured he was just commenting dumb stuff.
No. I think he fell asleep.
I think it's time for Jeff's Betty Bye this afternoon.
So, not Jay says there are negative traits, which is true in bigger battles too. There are negative traits, which is pretty cool. My very first bigger battle, I accidentally gave everyone negative traits of the unit commanders because I misread the rules. But it was cool. Because we had people as commanders McMurray, you're leading this troop, and so it's McMurray, and he's gluttonous, which means or whatever. Actually, I think McMurray, you were weren't you dashing or something? So basically, you just were so good. Anyway, it was funny. So remember this again. This is cinematic and supposed to be fun. We're not going to go through them now, but McMurray comes up with really goofy names for his characters. Well, not just him, but Jay does it. Not Jay. Everyone does it because that's the kind of fun stuff. But actually, Too Fat Larry does that too. And they're
I was going to say they're
serious.
They're really good at it. Their standard go-to for a sharp practice is Captain Richard Fondler.
It sounds like a normal name.
Tricky Dick.
I think that is all I had. Tactician flank shots. So there's a million things you could do if you wanted to give a certain scenario flavor because you're reading a story like that KV-1 that parked outside of a Russian town and just took some stuff. Well, give it some really good positive. You can give a unit up to 3 traits if they're awesome, and then one of them 2 traits, and everyone else 1. Again, leaders or whatever. So I can't remember what 9 was going to be. I had another thought, but anyway,
what's up?
I thought of a 9th fun trait to give, but it sounds, again, that's why it's kind of cool. I get nothing from Wiley Games. I'm just a guy that he's across the state from me, and he's a fun dude. So when I'm encouraging you to buy his stuff, I don't get anything for it except for just great appreciation and whatever, good feeling. But that's one reason to get some of the books. I'm pretty unlikely to play Horse and Musket or Starfighters or Galactic Heroes or that, or Fantasy even, which I did not get yet. But he's always coming up with new traits and just kind of little tweaks to his rules and stuff to kind of improve or make them different or whatever. And so as I was reading actually Horse and Musket, there's just some things in here that you can tell his thinking is, moved, like that bugler thing. That's pretty cool. Well, that's not even in. There's a lot of these. Well, this is fistful lead, so it's a little different. But there's some of the stuff you could add to bigger battles. He just hadn't thought of them yet, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's the kind of cool thing about having a rule set that is a living rule set to a certain extent, is that, stuff changes. Stuff gets added, stuff gets taken away.
Yeah, and he's not changing anything too crazy in him, but and it plays great as it is. So okay, we've been on here longer than I thought we were going to be, which is fine and great. Thanks for popping on here. So again, that was I appreciate all. Man, I had we had a good group watching. Traits, rules to forget, and proposed traits and rules for if I go deeper in this with World War II. So remember shock, action, support weapons, and concentrated fire. Or rules I forgot or need to remember. I guess another one that's a little tougher to remember actually is low ammo.
Oh yeah.
I never forgot about. Well, I did forget about it, but I didn't forget about it. It's like one of those rules I knew about, but in the heat of the moment. So basically, if you roll more ones than hits, then you are low ammo, which means you can't. I'd always put a little smoke marker in front of the gun, and basically you have to spend the whole next turn reloading, fixing the breach, whatever you want to call it. That's what's fun about it. It's maybe not even low ammo to fix it, and then you basically lose a turn of firing and doing anything else. So
or else you shoot at half effectiveness.
And well, so this, man, I'll tell you what. I don't know if we have indirect fire and infantry or guns they're tough to be effective in this game because most of the guns you have to reload, which means I fire turn 1 and then I have to wait. So turn 2, I can't do anything. I'm reloading it because it has a feature called reload, which is basically it automatically gets low ammo or whatever because you got to load the gun.
Yeah, which means you're firing severely less effectively.
So now you're firing every other turn. So that's one thing. Another thing is if it's indirect fire, like a mortar, which kind of makes sense. I mean, this is, mortars weren't, anyway. So
it was rare for a mortarman to be able to just put it where he wanted it.
Put it where he wanted it and then do a lot of damage. So like in my game, I was hitting, but you still have to, whether you hit or miss, you still roll a direction D10 to see which way it where it goes and how far. And so I would hit. So I'd hit like on an 8 or 9 or 5 or whatever it was. And which to me is another reason to do the long range, because to me a mortar on this table can hit anything. But anyway, so I'd hit with a whatever number, and then you got to roll, and I'd indefinitely roll a 9 pointing off some random direction. Though one time,
your frogos shot themselves, didn't they?
The frogs, no, how'd that work? No, the frogs they aimed for some Germans, but had to go back, and it hit the commander and gave him 2 shock, and then he got hit and was out of the game from some other fire. So,
okay, there you go.
So it worked in their advantage, but it could easily. I did have some go back towards the French, but they'd already
vacated
the spot there. I think that might be something. Regrouping, is that something that's different than big battles and Fistful of Lead?
Yeah, that's not a thing in Fistful of Lead. And
I saw this question actually to not Jay on a post. So if you have more, so each unit, right? A unit may have 3, 4, 5 stands, so those are considered, wounds. If you get more shock, then you have hits you can take. So in my case, if I had 5 stands, like I had a guy, I had 5. Oh, I was using figures actually, but I had 5 figures and 5 shock. If I'd gone to 6 shock, I would run back 2 moves, so 10 inches, and remove one of those shocks. So then I had 5 shock, and so that's kind of regrouping.
There you go.
That's a bad thing. And so my infantry gun had it. My French unit got it. I had a lot of people get it in that game. So
sometimes it's rough.
It is rough. Okay. Anyway, hey, so we got a box here, but I'm not going to do this here now because I think McMurray needs to go, and we want to see if we can get Jeff. Jeff from Hex to Hex sent us a little box of goodies. I think.
Yeah, later on this evening, let's do that.
So check us out. We might see us later tonight do an unboxing of some goodies. It's Christmas.
Oh, goodies.
Christmas in February. So we'll hopefully get a chance to get the 3 of us on here so we can have Jeff watch us get all gleeful as we, of course, now I got the box here. So, hey, man, if it's McMurray's and he's not here, too bad. So it's
too
mine
bad,
now.
tough titties.
So anyway, join us later. Hopefully we get that. So let's see any final comments. Great show, guys. Thank you. My one oops is pre-measuring is a no-no. Whoops.
Who said that?
Yeah, not me. I was doing it all over the place.
Yeah, we were pre-measuring Todd was pre-measuring like a fiend.
I just don't. I don't know. I never had a problem with that in any game. But if it's the rule, can't do it. So, but I didn't know. So I guess that's another rule I forgot. Let me type that in here. 6, no pre-measuring.
You doofus.
Call it the Chuck rule now. Thanks a lot. Anyway, all right. Hey, everybody. Thanks a lot. I appreciate all the views. And look who's on here. Yeah, warm up. Pre-measure all you want. Yeah.
Who just arrived?
We finally agree. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think that's what it is, Charles. It's sending us Valentine's gifts.
Yeah, dude. Filled with candy hearts and love letters and poems and lockets and
pure West Virginia poems.
Yeah, man. Some of them even have like words that make sense.
Oh, come on now.
He's been drawing us pictures and stuff.
Stick figures.
Yeah.
I love you, man. Okay. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks, McMurray, for coming on. And hopefully you guys will see us later tonight. I'm assuming like in the 8 o'clock Central Time period, but we haven't talked about it at all. So
probably something roughly around there.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, everybody. Thanks. McMurray, thanks. And happy rolling day, everybody. Keep rolling.
Yeah, bye, guys.